Good morning, everyone, and warm welcome to Chetan sir, Umesh sir, Jugjeev sir, Sandeep sir, and all the other teachers and students, those who are present here. So today we'll be continuing with chapter 2, the Door-to-Door Bookstore.
Yeah, okay. So, see, Rishona, good to have you here, and really good to see that you're back to writing in the Joy of Learning diary. So, uh, that is very nice to see after a long time. So, that's great. And I hope that, you're going to continue on this. Just as I was saying this, I think Rishona has vanished. Or is she still there? Oh, that's good. So, Rishona, Umesh sir was telling us, and I know he speaks for me on this subject as well, that, uh, at our age, we become very conscious of our age. I'm just curious as to what happened. I've forgotten what I felt like when you were there. Are you at your age? So are you conscious of your age? Does it sort of come up in your mind at different times? So, how does this work? And Kunal, I'm going to come to you next with the same question.
Not specifically that I am conscious of my age, but like sometimes I do feel so because from my school, everyone else who is there at my good school, they're all a year or two older than me. So they're all in 11th side now, and I'm just in 9th side now. So there's a real age difference. And especially when I first joined, so there was a
Right.
lot of age gap between people who were originally here, and then I was
Right.
just there as one of the most youngest people there. So I felt a little conscious to be there, but I think now I've just grown into it because at first I thought that all the seniors who are here at my good school from my school, they're all so much older than me and I can never truly feel comfortable talking to them. But at this point now, they're all like my elder sisters. So
Right.
Oshi, Anushka, Arika, all of them, and I think this relationship it just came from my good school itself and all of us being there. So at first, at times, I do feel conscious of being younger than everyone else here, but you just get used to it and then you just grow into it. So not that much anymore.
Thank you for that. Yeah. You want to comment on this? No? You think Sandeep Kunal is in a class today?
Yeah, Kunal is here. Kunal is another stalwart. Chetan, you'll be quite surprised that Shona and Kunal have joined us on October 1, 2021 when we opened. It's also the year when you got off the ground. It's all the year when we got off the ground. And Kunal is a very interesting story of Kunal. This is a school in Rajasthan called the Fab India School. We support that school. I've put in about 10, 12 years of work with them to bring them where they are today. So Kunal has seen his journey with me being involved in the school since 2012. So he joined school in my presence, and when I took on a larger role in the foundation and handed over the operations to the team we put in place, Kunal followed me here as an intern. After completing school, now he's joined us as a fellow because he's in college. So that's Kunal's story. I think he's here. He's
Yes,
very
sir.
Yeah.
Over to you, Kunal. Rishona just spoke. Most welcome.
Yeah, Dugji sir, can you just repeat your question so I can just get
So, at Umesh and Sir and my age, we are conscious of our age. Rishona, in her own way, is also conscious of her age. I'm just wondering whether people at your age are conscious of your age or not.
Yeah, I think it is be I guess I have seen people if I see about my personal level, I don't feel about more, conscious about age and all. But I see other people around my mates and they are peer groups and all. They are very much conscious because nowadays we see that many young people like some of we were seeing like now in RCB the IPL a 13-year-old boy is playing. So now these kinds of things are coming up, and you say that okay, this FOMO of like fear of missing out is coming up in younger people. That okay, this person has get this. I am still at this age. I have not got to that level or something, but surely everyone has different surroundings, circumstances, and goals and everything. So I guess, yeah, in our age or in peer group, there is a consciousness about age. But if I talk about my personally, I had never felt that.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Kunal, does it have anything to do with your school and how we grew up together in that little village? Because I
Yeah,
think
there I
that school is the teachers' children are literally at the same ground, on the same foot, on the same soil. That's something unique in that school. I don't know if you'd like to tell us about that.
Yeah, I guess I did remember that, at our school, I guess if I talk about a similar journey or a collaborative journey between my good school and the Fabinda school and in center between me. So I guess I was very much, I would tell myself as a blue-eyed boy there because I was, at that time, I was knowing the chairman of the school because that was chairman. So I guess I was doing good, good at that time. And if I talk about what Mr. the Sir is talking about, I guess yeah, it was there. We were seeing no differences at Fabinda. I did remember that once in a time there was this SDM which has come to Bali. So she was an IAS. So her own children were studying at Fabinda only, and at the same time the bus drivers who used to carry us from our places to the school, the same child was being studying in the same class, and they were both good friends. So I see at Fab India we had that much very privilege.
So, Chetan, if I may add, it's perhaps the only school in the country I've come in my career where diversity, equity, and inclusion are not championed, but they are lived life. So everyone has access to that school. So you'll find the SDM child, the jeweler's child, the villager's child, the farmer's child, the laborer's child, and they're all welcome in the school. I've never seen a school like this anywhere else in the world. You may have a government school, but there you and me won't want to send our children for whatever reason. But this was one school which is unique, where everyone felt they must send their child to this school. I know there are 17 English medium schools in that locality, by the way, now. Bali is not a small township anymore. So even with 17 schools, this was the only school where everyone was welcome, which had no entrance exam, which does not differentiate. And as a result of that, we started with the capacity of 300. We are 800 plus today, and we have still managed to, keep that kind of openness and joy of learning, the happiness with teachers. So if you ever get time, there's a little video you will find on My Good School channel. It's about the Fab India School. It's over 3 minutes. It's also there on my website. So that's the story. Over to you, Jugdeep sir.
Manisha ma'am, this is the wrong bookmark. We are close. We are on page 53 in the written book. So while Manisha ma'am hunts for that, this book that we are reading is called The Door-to-Door Bookseller. It's by somebody called Carsten Henn. And it was written in German and it's been translated by Melody Shaw. Aage, Manisha next.
So we read only English books or
Currently we are reading English books. This is one, and there's another one which Sandeep will read, which is The Inner Life of Animals. And but in the past we've read Hindi books as well. But right now we're reading a couple of English books. Yeah, it's in The Stranger, and it's Go Aage.
Is that the Stranger by Kamo?
Piche. Go back.
Umesh, the book they're reading is The Door-to-Door Bookstore. It's not by Kamu. The chapter is The Stranger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Jugji will catch you up in a minute. He normally reflects last week.
Yeah. I think it's It's the next one. I think. Pinky Promise is where it sort of ended at. Just go to the next page. Yeah. So, Carsten Henn, the German author, and I'll just read a little bit about him. Born in Cologne in 1973, is a wine journalist and a restaurant critic in addition to his work as an author. He has written many successful culinary crime novels as well as romantic comedies, plays, and a picture book. His novel, The Door-to-Door Bookstore, was on the Spiegel bestseller list for over 2 years, sold over 500,000 copies in Germany alone, was translated into more than 30 languages, and was made into a film with Christopher Maria Herbst in the title role. His next novels, The Story Baker and The Bread and Butter Letters, were also big bestsellers. He has received several awards for his literary works. That's about Carsten Henn. The book we've been reading, we are like midway through the second chapter, and the story opens with this bookstore called the City Gate in a city in Germany. Uh, it's being run by somebody called Sabine Gruber, and she's in the bookstore, and somebody's asking her for a book recommendation, and not happy with Sabine's answer to her question, and she asks for Carl, and a little later, Carl walks in. Uh, and this is a subject we've discussed that the author says, and Sandeep agrees, that the reason a bookstore exists is to recommend books to people. So people come and ask which book should I read, and that's key task performed by bookstores. And then we have a couple of interesting anecdotes from Carl. In the store. Carl used to work earlier in the store, and right now what he does is he picks up books from the store and delivers them to different people. He has coined names from books for different people. So, for example, we came across somebody called Von Hornhesch in the earlier last Sunday, and he calls him Mr. Darcy out of Pride and Prejudice. So he just gives everybody in his life has a name from a book, and he reaches the stage where he many times forgets the actual name as well. And Carl, this is the best part of his day when he delivers the books. He is single. He's got a house which has 4 rooms. He actually thought that he'd marry and he'd have a son and a daughter, and he sort of planned, this room was for my son, this room was for my daughter, but it never happened. And one day when he's delivering, getting on, he goes through this place called Munsterplatz, at the beginning of his walk to deliver the books. And one small girl comes up to him and wants to accompany him, Shastra. And he doesn't want, he's not, I mean, so they have a conversation, but she's fairly persistent. And so he ends up having no real choice but to let him accompany her. And in the last Sunday, we saw that she actually runs into one of Mr. Darcy's house, and ends up having a reasonable conversation with Mr. Darcy, who doesn't seem to mind, and Carl, of course, is fairly embarrassed with what happened. And so that's how the last time we were reading it just stopped, where she said that that she will behave herself going forward, and that's why she said Pinky Promise. So let's start now. The next point of call was to a nun who never set foot outside her convent. 519 years after the foundation of a Benedictine order, the Vatican had decided it should be dissolved. One nun, however, had refused to leave. It was, after all, her house. When Sister Maria Hildegard was born, no one could have guessed she would one day live in a convent. Her father was a molecular biologist, her mother an astrophysicist. Both held a devout faith in science. Anything requiring words, not members to explain, not numbers to explain, was no value to them. God had never been invited into their lives. Their daughter, on the other hand, began expressing her future career intentions by the time she was in kindergarten. Not to be a princess or an astrobiologist, which was the unspoken dream of her parents, but to be a nun. Her parents had laughed, believing it a passing fad she would grow out of. Besides, they wanted grandchildren, as they often reminded her. But as their daughter grew, so did the desire. It was an unformed desire, much like a cloud which cannot be grasped and has no fixed form, but it's shaped by the wind. The cloud's appearance continually shifts, but it always remains the same cloud. After taking her abitur, which is the inter-school exams, the daughter had traveled to Zimbabwe to work for 6 weeks with orphan children. Coincidentally, the project was run by a Benedictine order. Working amongst the nuns brought peace into the life of the future Sister Maria Hildegard. She spent her evenings reading the New Testament, not as she had done in school, as homework to be completed before the next class, but of her own free will, and only as much as she could absorb in one sitting. She met a young man named Jesus who showed her a way that could be together for a way they could be together forever. The way led to a Benedictine convent. For the first time in her life, she felt as though she belonged. It was like coming after believing herself homeless. It was like coming home after believing herself homeless. Having found such a special place, Sister Maria Hildegard had no wish to ever leave. After all, life outside had never treated her so kindly. The Archdiocese had so far issued an eviction notice, cut off the electricity, water, and heating, and even threatened administrative fines. Unfortunately, under ancient ecclesiastical law, they were not permitted to remove her by force. If she left of her own volition, on the other hand, she could be prevented from re entering. Although Sister Maria Hildegard had no idea whether or not she was under constant surveillance, she did not wish to take any chances. Carl made regular deliveries of crime fiction. To each package, he would add half a kilo of flour and a pack of candles. They never spoke of it. Others in the neighborhood also made a habit of frequently dropping off a little something in the hope that heaven might not look so unkindly on them for it. Carl was not aware of the small kitchen garden in the convent courtyard, carefully tended by Sister Maria Hildegard. Nor was he aware of the well which supplied her with drinking water. He had no idea that the reason she spoke so knowledgeably about the weather was because of the great significance it had for her plants. He had given her the name of the pious monk from Hermann Hesse, Narcissus, and Goldman, although he had preferred to use the botanical umbrella name, calling her sister Amaryllis. Shaska was fascinated to meet a nun. She wanted to know whether nuns only ate wafers, whether they had hair under their veils, and what was the customary length for a nun, and whether there were special nun pajamas. She skipped the question of whether everything had to be washed in holy water in favor of another that was burning the tip of her tongue. Is it true nuns aren't allowed to marry? Oh, but I'm married. Oh, does God know? Marius laughed. God is my bridegroom. Your bridegroom lives a long way then. How so? Heaven is right above us. Maybe, but you can't fly. She scrutinized Marilus's habit closely. Can you? I have never tried. Try it sometime. If you're God's wife, he must want you with him. All nuns are married to God. Shaska tilted her head. I thought you were only allowed one wife. Then she nodded as the answer dawned on her. Of course, he's God. He doesn't have to keep his own rules. Sister Amaryllis was lost for words, and Carl swiftly said their goodbye as a way of pretending he hadn't noticed. So let's just stop here for a second. So this is what Shaska is about, a very perky young kid. A few things that have come so far, right? Parents, or she was at the Benedictine order. So, anybody? Benedictine order? What is the Benedictine order?
I guess
Yeah,
it must have to do with Saint Benedict.
have to do with?
Saint Benedict.
No, I mean, it's one of the orders of, and I think for Catholics originally, they have different orders, right? It must seems to me like different sects or strains. So it's one of the orders which believes in prayer and community as well, and service is what I understood. So his father was a molecular biologist. What is a molecular biologist? Anybody? What is a molecular biologist?
Ela ma'am is here, Bhavna is here. Today we have Deepika from Jammu also. We have Harneet from Jodamal School.
So
We have
Gemini tells me molecular biology is the study of how molecules interact to perform the functions of life. It is a branch of biology that studies the structure, composition, and interaction of cellular molecules. That's what it is. Okay. And you have application in genomics, molecular diagnostics, molecular genetics. So it's a branch of specific branch of biology. What's an astrophysicist?
Oh, I guess
Astrophysicist?
any physicist who's look, looking at the larger physics of ast astrology, astronomy
Yeah, so
of
my understanding it's a
stars.
branch of astronomy who studies the physical properties of celestial bodies and the universe. They use the law of physics to study stars, planets, and other objects in space. So that's how it's a part of astronomy, is what I understood. And her parents wanted her to become an astrobiologist. What is an astrobiologist? Okay. Is a scientist who studies the possibility of life beyond Earth, exploring the origins, evolution, and distribution of life in the universe, even often through interdisciplinary research. Okay, so looking at life beyond Earth, that's what an astrobiologist does. Okay. So the question, which came to me is that how did this little girl, how did she say when she was so small that she wanted to be a nun? Like how? When you are sort of very small, I don't know. I don't think, at least for me, I was very clear on what I wanted to be, right? People keep telling you things, and it's very. I don't know. Did you know what you wanted to do when you were that small? How does this
Ask
work?
Rishona. Rishona would be a good
Huh?
person to answer that.
Say that again.
Ask Rishona.
Let's Rishona, tell us.
Rishona will answer this well.
Rishona, have you decided what you want to be? Kunal, have you decided what you want to be? And when did you decide? Can't hear you if you guys are talking. Still on mute.
I guess similar to this, when she talks about nun, I guess I was in class fourth or third, I guess. So I write in my those scrapbooks and all that I wanted to be the gangster. So the reason,
Gangster!
yeah, so the reason was
Wow!
that while going to the maternal house, so there was a person like this. So he was, his aura was a kind of very much fascinating to me. So I used to feel like I did write in my class third or fourth. So it was there. So it can be someone seen. She might have someone seen like that. She might have someone influenced that way. I think that it might be.
Yeah, that's the point. Normally you figure these things out based on your environment, right? What you see, what you do. I mean, uh, I think I understand your thing about being a gangster. It's you see a lot of Hindi movies. At least I did those days. They always had a bad guy and a good guy, and the bad guy always. Pretty much through the movie, the bad guy was always winning, right? Only in the end he would lose, but over time he had a reasonable life. So I can understand, and they're very powerful most of the time, and you get influenced. But yeah, I don't know. It's not something inborn, right? What do you think, Chetan, Umesh? Do you think it's inborn, or you get just the environment and you sort of based on that, parents say, relatives say, you see other people, and based on that, you decide what you want to do? How does this work?
I think it's a function of both. The environment has a role to play, a massive role to play. The peer group has a massive role to play. But there is also something intrinsic which resonates within and chooses the experiences that it wants to have. So I believe we have our own consciousness, and that consciousness decides what what resonates with it. So the infinite paths which are available. So the same, the fact is that I would have seen Hindi movies as well. I would have seen the same villains and whatever,
Yeah.
and yet I never wanted to be a gangster ever in my life. Um, um, when I was young, it wasn't that I wanted to be something specific. It would keep on changing, from time to time. Sometimes I would want to be a pilot. I guess that was because my father was from the Air Force, but he wasn't a pilot. He was an ATC person, air traffic controller. But I wanted to be a pilot. Then at a point in time, I wanted to be a rocket scientist, with ISRO and so on and so forth. And things changed. There was a time I wanted to be a healer, or uh, you know get into medicine, etc. But I couldn't bring myself to cut things up and so on and so forth. So decided that wasn't for me. Um, but it wasn't ever that. Uh, so I think, in summary, I think, the environment has a role to play, but there is something intrinsic, which resonates with certain things in the environment.
I disagree actually. I think DNA has no role in professional aspiration. It's completely determined by the nature, influence of peers, influence of parents. I don't think a newborn child, if it could express itself, would point towards an aspiration. I think it's a newborn is born blind.
So we can debate on this. I mean, that's a point of view, but we have seen so many examples. One of the greatest examples perhaps I can give, where the environment was created to give uh, a certain outcome, and yet the result was entirely the opposite. This man was called the Gautama, and Siddhartha Gautam, and his father ensured that he had all the luxuries in life. He never saw anything uh, which was not beautiful, and and then this man left everything and became a monk
That's because he saw suffering.
once. But what was the predominant thing in his environment through his life? For the first 20 years in his life, uh, he saw only magnificence and opulence and luxuries and things like that. And then just one instance, and 21 years of environment and training just evaporated. So I would say there is something intrinsic. Also, the environment plays a role, most definitely, but also there's something intrinsic.
Yeah, since you mentioned Siddharth, Hermann Hesse is, one of the authors. He's given the sister name from one of Hermann Hesse's book, Narcissus and Goldmund. And of course, Hermann Hesse, at least since I remember, the most famous novel, according to me, was Siddharth. And that's
Yeah.
based on his trip to India. And, Hermann Hesse, I mean, anyway, writes about discovering yourself and related subjects. And so yeah, I mean that Haman has written on Siddhartha as well.
And Siddhartha is more than 2000 years old. Re- Very recently, not that old, is Guru Nanak. He showed, right from the very go, and he belonged to a family which was not overtly spiritual in that sense. They were normal Khatri families doing business and so on and so forth. But Guru Nanak, right from the childhood, and then Shankaracharya, again right from the childhood. But Shankara, you could attribute that his interest towards spirituality was because his father was quite aligned, but not so. Not so. That was not true for Guru Nanak.
Yeah. So the intriguing thing I saw also, which struck me, was that here is this nun living by herself, and she has interest in crime fiction. He delivers her crime fiction, and I'm just saying, like, why would a nun have interest in crime fiction? Any thoughts on that? Nun interest in crime fiction.
because it's great fun reading crime fiction.
Yeah, maybe. Sherlock Holmes is
Same way
fun,
as
mystery or something like that.
no, it's same way as why you want to be a gangster is because the bad men have more fun compared to the hero.
Yeah, and just just a suggestion to everybody, since we are spending time together, it would be good if everybody can switch on their cameras. At least we will know, who Mr. Raj Purohit is, or it will be good to put a face to the voice.
Yeah, Chetan, this is a generation divide. At my good school, we don't have this compulsion because a lot of the youngsters.
No, it wasn't a compulsion. I am
Yes,
not
no,
really.
I appreciate what you said, but what happens here is that we never had this thing that you have to put on your camera. What happens here is a lot of younger generation, particularly, even when you do their school sessions, they won't put on their camera. So teacher struggles with that. So we thought, let's not take that struggle here. Let my good school accept whatever happily comes. So a lot of them have devices where bandwidth choices are limited. A lot of them are in far off places where they want to conserve the bandwidth. So in that particular case, what you're saying is right. You would love to have everyone with their mug shots here, but it doesn't work always. But yes, some of us can. Please do that.
Yeah, it would be good if possible.
Yes. Ela ma'am, switch it on, switch it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ela ma'am, did you always know you were going to be a teacher? You're on mute. You're on mute. No, still on mute, Ela ma'am.
No, sir, I never know I would be a teacher because even I didn't want to.
So, what did you want
And
to be when you were small?
I would like to. I would like to be a corporate executive.
Ah, okay. And that was because, I mean, somebody in the family, or what was the reason for that?
No, no. The reason was not to be a teacher because I found that most of the time my parents used to be so busy. They didn't have time for me, so I didn't want to go for any such job.
Right. But why corporate executive? I mean, why were you thinking of being a corporate executive?
So the idea came to me when I was when I was in 10th. So in 10th
Right.
class, my cousin, she was taking commerce.
Right.
So it said that by taking commerce, you can go for official job. Idea came and I joined. Nothing else.
Yeah. So, yeah, peers and family, they have a big influence in
Yeah,
this thing. Yeah.
we
So,
get examples of theirs and we just get motivated. Okay, this is interesting and we can go
right,
for it.
right, right. So, I had difficulty thinking about why a nun would want to read crime fiction. So I thought, let me ask Meta what Meta thinks.
Sir,
So Meta said that that's a
actually the cause.
fascinating question. While nuns are often associated with spiritual pursuits, many are also avid readers who enjoy a wide range of genres, including crime fiction. Here are some possible reasons why a nun might be interested in reading crime fiction. And I won't get into the detail, but big headings are intellectual stimulation, emotional connection, escapism and relaxation, spiritual reflection, or personal interest and curiosity. So, I
So
mean, it gave me a
one
pretty
more.
long answer on the subject.
I agree to it, sir. One more reason for not reading crime fiction is it is said that whatever we practice and we get it. So we do not promote our children to read such things. With the maturity of mind, you can go for such things. But until you are mature, it is not promoted.
Okay. So that's a definite point of view. Okay. So, any other thoughts on what we read so far? Okay, now let me
I
carry
find
on.
it interesting. Ila ma'am says this. Um, see, it at least in our context, almost everybody, right from the very beginning, at least till my generation, it used to happen that we were familiar with the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Yeah, it's actually probably in the DNA of these stories, or stories from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata are in the DNA of the cultural DNA of the country, and they are in one way, you look at it, it's about crime. There is crime. Somebody comes up and kills some people, somebody is doing a yagna homa or something, destroys the homa, then somebody comes and takes away somebody's wife, and then there's a war fought on all of that.
Sir,
You- it's
it
crime.
promotes a value to you, sir. If you are doing wrong, your fortune could not support you. So somewhere we are putting a positivity in the society that we should go for good things. By reading the crime fiction, we just let people know what can be the reason behind being a criminal. That matters.
So that's an interesting perspective, that mythology is a part of the crime fiction genre.
No, I think everything has to finally reflect life, right? Whether
Yeah,
it is crime fiction, it has something to do with the with what we observe around us. Even science fiction, it does not exist from a vacuum. It exists because of the stars that we see around ourselves, and then let imagination run loose, and so on and so forth. Whether it is mythology or history, that might be another debate. But the fact is that everything must finally reflect life, whatever we see. And when we are doing education, then education must prepare people for, well, life.
yeah, yeah, that's the purpose. That's the purpose. Okay, so let me read ahead.
Stay silent, peaceful of mind. Correct है ये? हाँ? हाँ?
Okay, let me read ahead. The next meticulously wrapped book was destined for Dr. Faustus, a man who claimed to be a professor emeritus, but who had in fact not had so much as a high school education. He had been intelligent enough, but his parents had no money for his schooling, and so he had followed in his father's and grandfather's footsteps, becoming a railway conductor and subjecting himself each working day to unreasonable complaints from passengers over unpunctuality, incompetence, or surliness. An air of persecution hung perpetually over him, and he had an immense fear of dogs, particularly poodles. Yet he wished with all his heart for a loyal companion, a smart, faithful, distinguished dog, appropriate for an intellectual such as himself. It was a contradiction even he, with all his perspicacity, was unable to resolve. Perspicacity is astuteness. Finding a name for him had been almost too easy. Dr. Faustus read historical treatises with the sole purpose of refuting them on as many points as possible, in as many letters as possible, to the author or their universities. He would explain them all to Karl, although usually without context. His explanation also had a tendency to peter out, like rivers that divide too often and never return to their original course. At some point, the doctor would then close the door with a shake of head. Mrs. Longstocking had an unfortunate typing error for him, writhing in agony. In between deliveries, Carl always felt particularly at one with himself and the world. Very late ran, very little ran through his mind. Even thinking about his route was a responsibility taken by his feet. Today was different. Although Shaska did not say much, she was there, and that changed everything. Why was she there? Carl suddenly wondered, first in his head, then out aloud. Why don't you play with other children? Don't they do that anymore? Yeah, they do. But not you? Yeah, I do. But not now? Nope. Don't you have any friends? Of course. Carl was accustomed to monosyllabic exchanges with work experienced students. Not a single word too many. Perhaps they were saving energy for other activities. Who then? Alex, Leila, Simon, Anna, Evalina, Tim. No, not Evalina. Not anymore. She's a stupid, arrogant doofus. Can I hand over the next book? Carl loved the moment of handing over a book, wrapped like a gift. Though he would never have admitted it, it made him feel a little, a very little, like Father Christmas. No, that's not possible. Please, just once. Sorry, no. Please, 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 please. Maybe another time, but not for Effie Breest. She was the last call on this round today. No, now, then I don't, no, 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 now, then I won't bother you anymore. Promise. That's blackmail. I know, it's working. Effie Breest's house appeared ahead of him. Carl shook his head. No, but you can ring the bell. That's not the same thing at all. Unlike handing over the book, it makes a pleasant sound. That was true. The bell played the Westminster chimes. After a short pause, Effie opened the door, slightly out of breath. Hello, Mr. Koloff. She caught sight of Shaska. Have you brought your granddaughter today? She held out her hand in greeting. No, I'm Shaska. I'm helping him. You should always help old people. Carl felt old every day, but never had he felt so old as at that moment. Shaska might as well have hung a sign around his neck that said, "Can't manage alone." I love children, said Effie. Do you have any? To Shaska, it was a simple question requiring one word answer, yes or no. For Andrea Kremen, the reply was not a word. It was not even a book. It was a whole library. Not yet, she summarized. Carl unbuckled the backpack and untied the cord to pull out the final book of the day. Can I hand it over? Said Shaska in a voice dripping with honey. Do let the child hand the book over. It seems to mean so much to her. Carl hesitated. For the first time in decades, he would not complete a book delivery. Everything was changing, and it was changing much too quickly for Carl. The muscles in his hands protested, stopping midway to Shaska's small fingers. Finally, she reached out and took the package, pressing it much too quickly and unceremoniously into Effie's hands. Unwrap it. I always tear my presents open super quickly because I want to see what's inside. Shaska laughed. Now I want to see what's in yours. It was Daughter of the Shadow Rose, sequel to the best-selling novel. According to the back cover, It followed the continuing dramatic saga of a young girl who had grown up in a cruel orphanage and developed an extraordinary talent for gardening. It looks very sad, said Shaska, studying the cover illustration of riding across a moor, her head bowed against a stone. Effie leafed through the pages. It is, but it's also very true to life. At any rate, I'm looking forward very much to reading it. She looked back at Shaska. Will you bring me another book sometime? Of course, replied Shaska, if he lets me. You will let her, won't you? Carl smiled. We'll see. Effie glanced back at Shaska. For Mr. Koloff, that means yes. It meant no, and Effie suspected as much. But she didn't want it to mean no, and as long as a thing was not articulated clearly, there was room for interpretation, which it would be wrong not to exploit. How are we doing on time? 11:34.
Complete the chapter, Jugjeev. I have only one chapter to read. My chapter is a small one.
A chapter is quite long. I can read a bit more. Okay, I can carry on.
Complete this delivery, and let them
No,
move
no,
on.
I mean, I can do the chapter. It's okay. You'll see.
Yeah.
They said their goodbyes, and Karl was then obliged to accept the next alteration to his precise routine, since he would have to take Shaska's book to Munsterplatz. Since he have to take Shaska back to Munsterplatz instead of heading directly home. As a result, he would have less time at home to read, would read fewer pages, but require a longer time to finish his book, all of which would mean a delay to the beginning of the next book. When every part of his life meshed together like the finest clockwork, even the tiniest dust particle could wreak havoc with the mechanism. She's a nice lady, said Shaska, who had decided to walk backwards for a while. But there's something not right about her. I know. It was funny the way she flicked through the book. Did you notice? What do you mean? I don't know. I'll have to watch her more carefully next time. Something about the way she did it wasn't normal. Effie's a singular person. Shaska switched to hopping.
Manisha,
Why do
please.
you call why do you call them Effie Bright and Darcy? They have completely different names on their doorbells. Those are names for them, more appropriate names. People who love reading deserve luxury name. Do I deserve one? Do you read a lot? Enough to get a name. What name would you give yourself? I asked you first. Carl hesitated. No, you didn't. Shaska laughed. Okay, you're right. But you can give me a name tomorrow. Okay? Bye bye, Bookwalker. With that, she was gone.
Yeah, we can stop here, Jugjeev. This is a nice point to stop.
Just, let me just one para. Carl decided to buy a bottle of wine. He suddenly felt the need to soothe his nerves. Just as vintage cars needed a little grease now and then, so Carl needed the wine. It had to be a Franconian Sylvaner, not just for the pear and the quince notes, but also for the pleasure of running his fingers over the wonderfully round shape of the Bach's bottle, a distinctive shape almost unique to the wine region. He bought 2 bottles. After all, Shaska was likely to turn up tomorrow. Just put a bookmark here. Sure.
Should we get on to the joy of learning diaries? Rishona has 1 or 2 interesting posts.
Yeah.
We can spend 2 minutes on the diaries.
Manisha.
Manisha,
Manisha.
uh, roll down the Joy of Learning diary, Manisha?
1 minute, sir.
Yeah, there are two things on that we would like to share. One is the calendar, of course, which is ready for the month of April. And second, Rishona has 2, 3 interesting posts. And I found the poetry very interesting. Maybe she is here and she can read it. You want me to help you if you are having a challenge? Yeah, I'm ready. Done. Shared. Jugib sir, we have the calendar out,
Yep.
month of April, and you were there at the last meeting. We will continue reading these two books for the month at my good school. And as we had said that when we meet at the retreat, 11th to 14th, there will be a Sunday school in the middle. So we both have to carry our books to the Sunday school at the forest. Okay, Jugdeep sir, don't forget, carry your books.
Yeah.
So we'll be reading the next Sunday from the retreat, which is at the Arthur Foot Academy in Uttarakhand near Hardwar and Dehradun. It's the edge of the Rajaji Sanctuary. We'll be staying at the Khan Farm. There are now 26 of us who are heading there, which is a fairly good number. Our top up is 30, which will happen because I think we have 1 or 2 more guests lined up. So it's a house full for the retreat. Kunal, thank you. You want to mention something about the retreat here before I just scroll down the program? Good. So on 13th, Jugjeet sir, at the meet and greet, which is again at the retreat, you have your book and you have Shikha joining us.
Yeah.
So I don't have to carry my book, you have to carry your book.
Okay.
Then on 20th, both of us have to carry our books. We are back here in my good school. You are in your studio and I in mine. On 27th, we are expecting Leena Usher. She'll do the next workshop and I'll be reading post Leena. The Teachers Academy has a packed schedule lined up. You have the learning program for teachers at the Arthur Foot Academy. AFA stands for Arthur Foot Academy. We have Thoughtful Thursdays where we do poetry and music appreciation. You have Brewing Knowledge Fridays where we do reading and art. You have the masterclass coming up, which is there every Saturday. We are completing this book by Shomi Das, and I think this will happen uh, 2 weeks from now. Then we open up with the next book. The next book is the book which will be for this year. It's called Productive Failure. So the book is available now. It's available on Amazon. It wasn't available 3 months back. So I'm glad we waited 3 months. Productive Failure will be the Teachers Academy book for 25-26. It'll take us a full year. We also have a promise from the author, Dr. Manu Kapoor from Singapore, who will join us at the opening session. He has some beautiful TED Talks on productive failure, so you can actually view them. Then we will have our usual monthly meetings, and that's it. So over to Rishona. Rishona, just could you read this poetry for us? I thought it would be nice if you read it. And then I would like to read. And here you mentioned class 8 and then you mentioned class 9 in your next post. So you can spill the beans.
There's only half. I think something is getting cut, in how it is getting displayed.
Shouldn't be. There's a graphic on top which we
Yeah,
removed.
in the left side, this thing is getting half cut.
Is that better?
No, it's getting worse.
It's getting worse. Okay, so what we'll do is we will do
The
in
reverse.
screen. Yeah, we'll do full screen. Better now?
I can see the whole thing.
Yeah, it's clear, absolutely. I'm
Okay.
using full screen on a very large monitor, so I don't have idea to what's happening. But is Rishona there to read the poetry? Yugdeep sir, can you spot Rishona?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rishona, would you like to please read this poetry for us?
Sure, sir.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
You'll only read poems about love and despair, hurt and care, failure and success, all the opposites. But you'll rarely ever hear poems about what you have, what you can do, and all the things that aren't bad. Sure, this world can be a dark and lonely place, but not if you find your little space. Bombs and wars, fighting and chores. It'll be wrong of me to say it'll all be okay. Because perhaps it won't, but we put our hopes in things that would never happen for far too long. Because perhaps it's time for us to see count our blessings and find the glee, because there must be something in our life that perhaps we can find, something that makes one smile despite the tough times. There are too many pessimistic things you can burden your mind with, but only one you can free the mind with. And that's to think of the things you have, the things you did, and the things you will.
Thank you, Rishona. Rishona, when you were writing this poetry, what was playing in your mind, if you would be kind enough to share with us? You can reserve the right, but what made you write this poetry? Was it a stimulation from an experience that day, or what was in your mind when you ended up doing these beautiful words?
I think a lot because that day I was just talking to one of my friends, and it was also the day when we had gotten our exam results, and then a lot of us were like, why is this all happening? Like, why do exams even happen in this world? And all of us were just sharing our sorrows of life and everything, and like that's when I realized that all of our troubles, they're actually so little, because for every one of us, all of our sorrows and all the things that we're sad about, they're actually so small in front of all the big things that are happening in the world. Because someone just may be upset about a small thing that happened in their life. Maybe their specs broke today, or something like their phone broke, their phone stopped working, and they're so sad about that. But there's so many other things that are happening in the world that are so much more painful, so much more terrible. And I think that also made me realize that it's so important to focus on the things that you have at that moment, because there's so many things that you do have that many other people are not privileged enough to have that opportunity, because someone may be crying about their marks or their performance, but there's someone else out there who's crying about the fact that they don't get the chance to at least give an exam in the first place. So I think that's what made me write this poem.
So, Rishona, this was in class 8, and then you graduate to class 9. So, you wrote one poem in your last class, and the next day you came to the next class. Is that right?
No, sir, I wrote it in the same class. I just forgot to finish it.
Okay. I thought you wrote one in the last class, and then 2 days later you were in the next one, and now that you're in the next class, you wrote it there. Thank you so much for these beautiful submissions. There was also a third submission you had done, and that's very nice. If you don't mind, I'd like to read this.
Yes, I can imagine. I was thinking of you when I read it.
Okay, so Jugjeev sir, before I read my chapter, please let me read this. I'm very curious to
Please
read.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Bookshops.
You have to get Rishona's
Give me
permission.
permission to read your piece.
Yes, sir, of course.
Thank you, Rishona. I'm honored to read the writing of yours. Rishona, I share something with you from my heart today. I think both of us are the co-founders of My Good School, and you deserve gratitude. You have a vision. You're very clear about what's happening. Earlier in the session today, there was this discussion about your environment shapes you, or you shape your environment ahead. I think this is a classic story between you and us. So thank you for being part of this journey. I respect you for what you do. Bookshops are a small haven of stories, poems, poems as we would call them, and the world's finest literature. Comfy sofas and the fragrance of a new shipment of books fill the air. With the pages turned yellow and the covers fading away, a bookshop is a timeless tale. Going to a bookshop, finding that one book that resonates with you among thousands on the shelf, the joy of getting those small free bookmarks that come with the book of your choice, it's an experience that is now being forgotten. But now that treasure is fading away. Bookshops don't seem crowded anymore. After all, Amazon exists. But online shopping will never in a million years replace what bookshops mean to me. Bookshops aren't just a business, they hold depth. They are spaces for people to discover their passions for reading and their intimate connection with books. I've often seen people going to bookshops, finding a book, and then searching for the same book online to see if they can get it cheaper. I see this every day. For a mere price, decrease, or a few rupees. People would rather get books online than buy from a bookshop. These books are treasures. People would rather watch TV shows and the movies on those very books. But movies would never capture the beauty of words. The way the author twists the story, the way the story unfolds, and the intimate moments. A film can't capture it all. No matter how childish the stories may seem, each book holds something for us. As we grow older, we forget that we were once taught in school and at home. Be patient. Think before you speak. These values are what we forget as time goes by, and sometimes all we need are short stories for children that hold a moral in each. The very bookshops carry books and stories of each genre with something for everyone. They hold treasures worth more than anything else because these books may not be as expensive as gold or as vital as water, but they hold something far more valuable: knowledge. Even fictional stories, mysteries, and fairy tales can be helpful. We just have to look closer to find them. Of course, reading doesn't resonate with everyone. You can't force anyone to it. It unfolds itself. So to the readers out there, let's keep the magic alive because it's something special and we can't lose it. Thank you, Rishona, for the honor for reading your blog. It's a pleasure. Yes, it brought some moisture in my eyes. Well, that's life. I sit in a bookstore and I live it every day. It's sort of uncannily autobiographical, and that's why before we started, we mentioned that I you are possibly the school captain, longest serving, and our co-founder, and we owe you gratitude. If we do one more thing, which perhaps not many would understand, let me just do it here. So if you go in a beautiful search box and do a search, you can print Rishona's journey from Rishona, where Rishona started and how she evolved as a writer. All the pieces she's written, we could print that into a book and send it to you. Thank you, Rishona, for all you have done in the last 3 years. Today's session is a tribute to your growth, to your development, and with all our good wishes, we hope you fly very high. So, Chetan and Umesh, before I read, I just thought we would give you a feel of how Sunday school happens, and we really respect you for being here. And I'm so glad Rishona was here, Kunal were here, because they are the torch bearers. They are the ones whom I think you never know may become teachers because of the environment they are in. Manisha ma'am, may I please have my book? I have time for a chapter, maybe chapter and a half. Thank you, Ela ma'am. Okay, I'll maybe Manisha was having a challenge with Dexity, so I will just do it.
So is it not visible, my screen?
Yeah, I got the screen on. Just tell me the chapter name. I'll handle it myself. That'll be nicer.
We can see the screen. Altruism.
Okay. So I also got it on my screen. So Manisha, I'll do it. No problem.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I got the screen. I hope everyone has the screen share. Chetan sir,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it the whole
Yes,
screen?
sir.
Yeah, altruism.
Yeah,
Page 139 of 2.
Absolutely. So we are in the book Inner Life of Animals, and before this, we read the book about the secret lives of trees. So what we have connected, and I go back to this morning's reading. I mentioned somewhere I'm reading about Yogananda Paramhans, and Yogananda is talking about his meeting with J.C. Bose. So what J.C. Bose is talking to Yogananda in that little chapter, and what you're seeing here today is exactly that. Now, J.C. Bose and Yogananda's story goes back a century and a half. And here we are, the Germans talking about the inner life of animals. So thank you to the inspiration of all the people who delved so deep and found all these stories. Can animals act selflessly? Selflessness is the opposite of selfishness, a characteristic that, in evolutionary terms, only the fittest best survive, is not inherently negative. However, if you live in a community, a certain level of selfishness is needed for it to function. At
Selfless.
least. Sorry.
No, it says a certain level of selflessness is needed.
Selflessness is needed for it to function, at least when this characteristic is defined in such a way that it doesn't necessarily require free will. Thank you, sir, for correcting me. Under this definition, many animals act selflessly, even bacteria. For instance, individual bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics release indole, a substance that serves as an alarm signal. Immediately, all the other bacteria in the area take protective measures. And this means that even those that have not mutated to become resistant to antibiotics are able to survive. This is a clear case of selflessness. But according to current scientific opinion, at least it's doubtful that free will comes to play. So altruism and selflessness, they are synonymous. When you look at the meaning of altruism, it's for greater good. And we look at the meaning of selflessness, where you don't put yourself first. So it requires no meanings. All are explained. And the beautiful part about this book is, as you read the sentence, the meaning unfolds. As far as I'm concerned, altruism is only meaningful when you have to make a real choice. When you have to consciously and actively sacrifice something in order to help another. In the final analysis, we can't be sure when this is the case with animals, but we can get closer to the issue by starting with the more intelligent ones. Birds belong to this category, and we can observe them behaving altruistically all the time. When an enemy approaches, for example, then the first great tit to notice the danger gives a warning call. Now all the other tits can fly away to safety. The bird that makes the call, however, has put itself in danger by drawing attention to itself. Of course, it can also try to fly to safety, but it is now highly likely that the attacker will catch it instead of one of the other tits. Why would the tit run such a risk? In strictly evolutionary terms, it makes no sense, because as far as the species itself is concerned, it makes absolutely no difference which bird is eaten. However, in the long term, altruism means not only giving but also taking. And that can mean future advantages for sympathetic and generous individuals. As Gerald G. Carter and Gerald S. Wilkinson of the University of Maryland observed in, of all things, vampire bats. These South American bats come out at night and bite cattle and other mammals so that they can lick up the blood that flows from the wounds. If they are going to eat their fill, however, they need experience and luck when it comes to finding cattle and making sure their victims don't move. Unlucky or inexperienced bats often go hungry, but only until their well-fed colleagues return to the cave. Here, the successful bats regurgitate. It's an interesting word. Let's find the meaning of this. Can we mark this word, regurgitate? We'll find what the meaning of it is. Yeah. Regurgitate, it's a verb being swallowed up again. Gulls regurgitate food for the chicks. So they keep the food and actually give it to the chicks. You can also get the full definition if you are keen, but we will leave the meaning here. Part of their meal of blood for their less fortunate cave mates. So the animal carries the food for the baby. So they all get to share in the meal. And I mean all. Surprisingly enough, it is not only close family members that get to eat, but also other bats that are not given distantly related to the one dispensing food. Not even distantly related to the one dispensing food. Why do the bats do this? From an evolutionary standpoint, surely it is the strongest that survive, and giving handouts makes animals weaker rather than stronger. Indeed, finding food takes energy, and animals that feed others as well must use more of it, while exposing themselves to danger more often. In addition, some members of the community could exploit selfless bats and permanently take advantage of their services. But it's not like that, as the two American researchers discovered. You see, the bats recognize one another and know exactly which of their acquaintances are generous and which are not. Those that exhibit especially altruistic traits are to be first looked after if they themselves ever run into the string of bad luck. Does that mean that altruism is selfish? In evolutionary terms, certainly, because the individuals who show these traits have a higher chance of survival in the long term. But there is something else. We can learn from the scientists' observations. Clearly, the bats have a choice, free will, and they can decide to share or not to share. If that wasn't the case, there surely would be no other need for the complicated social network of mutual recognition, attributing particular traits to particular individuals, and the behavior this gives rise to. Altruism could simply be genetically fixed as another reflex. So there would be no longer any recognizable character differences between the bats. However, selflessness is meaningful only if it happens of the individual's own free will, and vampire bats clearly exercise their ability to make this choice. Yeah, I think we should stop at altruism, but there's a lot of thought, and perhaps we'll read about upbringing next time. Jugdeep sir, what do you say?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I would still like to go back to the Good Schools of India weekly, if you'll allow me, Jugdeep sir. We just have to look at the
Sure.
Yeah, we just have a look at the
Ajay sir has joined us, so you may want
Very good morning. Sandeep ji, good morning. Jagdeep ji, good morning. I'm so glad to be part of this reading. I got a bit late. Pardon me for that.
No problem.
Lovely reading. Sandeep ji, amazing altruism. I mean, the concept which can really should be part of school. I'm sitting with a gentleman here, a Stanford gentleman. He's also listening to this conversation. So in his presence, I'm mentioning we are working on something called enhancing the culture of a school, which brings in value systems. And I think there cannot be a stronger value than what we are discussing right now as part of the reading. Amazing. So I could connect with each word which was being spoken.
Lovely, sir. It's great.
Ajay sir, you came in with a bang and you frightened the hell out of me.
No. I'll never do that. No.
No. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining us. For the interest of others, Ajay has been very kind to support us from the India school, and I owe deep gratitude to the 25 odd schools who keep us going year on year very selflessly, despite the fact that many of them don't even benefit from what they do for us. So Ajay sir, Learning Forward India Foundation is beneficiary of your largest. Keep supporting us. On that note, I have a very interesting story to tell you people today. You will be glad to know that we've been able to raise enough money to buy a bus for the Arthur Foot Academy, a sum of 26 lakhs. All thanks to a contribution from schools in UK. So there's a school in UK called the Oakham School. Those children who had traveled all the way to the Arthur Foot Academy some years back took their time. It took us 5 years to put together bit by bit. And finally, the money came in yesterday. The Doon School old boys are putting together a bus. And what they said that as this bus comes as a gift, we'll gift you one more. So add more fun to that. So Arthur Foot Academy in the Rajaji Sanctuary, where we go shortly, will have 2 buses. The 130 children will come home comfortably. They won't have to struggle, go by the edge of the forest, go by the dangers of going to school. They will comfortably come to school and go to school maybe in the next 2-3 months. So this is how school supporters, this is how communities are built. And Learning Forward Foundation only does one thing. It just reads. And that's why we are here. So thank you. And on the sidelines, if our partners prosper, we prosper. So I was trying to go to the Good Schools of India weekly when I got blown out because I clicked the wrong tab, and that happens to me often. So we have finally figured out that we must have a week's plan. We were doing so many things. So every Wednesday, the weekly comes. So last Wednesday, the weekly came out, and let me tell you, this weekly was read by over 600 people. We have 1,600 subscribers. The stats are available. Number of times the weekly was opened is also available. We welcomed last week in the weekly Anika. She is an ambassador of Oneness from the Dhun Anand Foundation. She does a lot of work for SDGs. There was a beautiful story about Hum Honge Kamyab because we talked about vision and mission some time back. And Kunal stated that Hum Honge Kamyab was the best vision statement a school could have. And it's the people who go from there, it's not just the children. These people were perhaps from that school one day. That's why you see them in the picture. So that's the beauty. That is a story about Hum Honge Kamyab. Here too, the school received a bus, all thanks to a largest Hum Honge Kamyab. I don't know why people gift us buses when we go everywhere. Anyway, that's good. It's a good thing. So this is a story. Then we featured the last Sunday school. It is there in the weekly. Jugdeep sir, thank you for going door to door, telling about your bookstore. We also read a chapter from Inner Side of Animals, Inner Life of Animals, which is the book we are currently reading. We actually read 2 chapters last time. The weekly also featured the master class. The master class was the education lab. And yesterday's master class was also very, very fascinating. I will actually give a feel of the master class here for everyone at my good school. The master class happens on Saturday evening. Yesterday's master class was the education lab. So I have now come to yesterday's master class. I clicked in the weekly, and that's how I came here. So if you want to read any of those references in the weekly, they will take you to the link. Inside the master class post, you will also find a video embedded. So whatever people miss out today, if you may be traveling, you may not be able to attend us every time, the YouTube channel records everything. And just for everyone, yesterday was video number 421. We have 421 videos on our YouTube channel. We have 300 podcasts on our YouTube channel. Our podcasts and videos feed the Teachers app by Bharati Foundation, which is a free app. So the entire stream of our video library and the podcast is available in the Teachers app. So we are back. This was the weekly. Yes, thanks to the English Book Depot, Jugdeep sir, they've started putting together a little weekly, and what they feature in their weekly, we just mention here. So if anyone is interested, you can click the link and go to the Brewing Knowledge Weekly, which is brought together by the English Book Depot. For some reason, we're talking of Siddharth today, and we were talking of mythology. Last week, they did a selection of books on spirituality. The selection changes every week depending on one lead book, and 4 books are featured which are in consonance with the reading in the one book. So that's it. That's the Brewing Knowledge Weekly. It covers everything. It also covers a little video about discovering music. So this is the weekly. If you'd like to sign up for the weekly, it's supported by the Learning Forward Foundation. There used to be a subscription of 3,000, which the Learning Forward Foundation has been able to generate sustainable money. It's free now. So weekly is available to all our subscribers, 1,600 of them. 1,600 means 50% are schools, 50% are individuals. So that's the weekly. Jugdeep sir, I have nothing more to share. I come back in the class to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Manisha ma'am. Over to you. And if you want to have any announcements or anything else, and I'm really grateful that Chetan and Umesh sir joined us and Ajay sir joined us today. And Manisha, ma'am, back to you.
I'm very glad and happy that so many guests today. We are having so many guests, and everyone has shared their ideas, and they love the way which we are reading. So, just a little announcement that we are taking care of the retreat sessions, and there are many things on our plate for the retreat. So, the plan is designed in according to our 4S, that is skills, service, sports, and studies. So, accordingly, all the sessions are being designed where children will be able to meet the Gujars, they will be able to see what they are doing in their local life, what they're eating, how they're interacting with each other, so on and so forth. Then we'll be going to the school to have an understanding how the children are living there, what kind of education they are getting. And at the same time, we will learn how can we help them with our own skills. So students becomes the teacher there and they'll be sharing their skills. That's going to happen. And in the evening, we'll be playing some games and there'll be a competition between the schools. So rest, everything, I would like to invite everyone for the retreat. Please do come and see for yourself what we are doing. Today it was a very nice and wonderful reading session. I hope everyone will be having some kind of takeaways. So please do write your takeaways as a reflection and send it to me so that I can publish in our website. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yugjeet sir, on the screen, I did flash some websites and messages for people who are curious as to what the retreat is. It's available on schooleducation.com. I'll just flash the screen once again so that in case you want to put a bookmark, you can actually go there. So we were mentioning about the retreat. So if you go to our website, it is schooleducation.com. Very simple, schooleducation.com. The Indian domain is goodschools.in. You will end up here. The homepage is here, the curriculum. So in our curriculum, we have My Good School. That's where we are today. We have the Teachers Academy, which happens at 5:30 p.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We have the My Good School retreat. That's the third trioca to complete our curriculum, which is what Manisha talked about. So there's a beautifully designed page for the retreat. Thanks, Kunal, for this illustration. Very well done. God bless you. Keep going. You will know why the retreat is done. It is done twice a year to read, reflect, and build relationships. Build relationships with the people, the forest, the environment, and the world around us. And that's why the retreat is not on Zoom, it's not remote, it's in real time. So we meet twice a year, which means we spend a week together in a year, split into two parts. We meet in April as well as November. This entire project which we are doing in the Arthur Foot Academy will, from the coming financial year, be underwritten by the Doon School Old Boys Society. They will raise the funds and help us build the Arthur Foot Academy. And that's why I flashed the Arthur Foot Academy to interest you to come to the retreat. Why the Arthur Foot Academy? Yes, it is dedicated to the first headmaster of the Doon School. So the old boys thought that in 1935, Arthur Foot could come to India in a village called Dehradun and set up a school. Let's also go to a village near Dehradun and set up another school. And our goal is very simple. Next 10 years, our children at the Arthur Foot Academy should head to the Doon School as confident young people, pass the entrance exam, and study there. Our school at the Arthur Foot Academy will only be till class 8. And we expect practically all our students 10 years from now entering the portals of Doon School. That's the whole story we want to build around the Arthur Foot Academy. This is the current structure. We have already set up a learning lab there. The learning lab connects with us. Learning lab is almost like what you see behind me in my studio. So we try and replicate a learning lab where we go to, we provide books, we provide some technology, and we provide clean drinking water. We also ensure that toilets are well maintained and looked after. That's a commitment to the schools we partner in. There is also a proposal to do this in health centers and community centers. Our breath only allows us to do 10 in the next 10 years. That's what we have figured out. There are thoughts, let's make it 100, God willing. I hope that happens. So this is the community learning center we set up. And yes, we got ATG, 12A, everything in place. We're almost at the edge of getting the FCRA in place, which should happen soon. I'm sure one FCRA is going to happen, and Astaya Services, thank you. Last week has been fantastic, and the minute we load documents, we We are getting replies within 24 hours from all agencies. Why that happened, how that happened, I really don't know. Whether it is 80G or it's 12A, thank you, Astaya, for helping us file our papers properly. And I never knew that government online responses come within 24 hours. Thank you, Chetan, for being so magnificent in your support. So this is about the retreat. If you go down, you'll find a little more snapshot about the school. You'll find some pictures about the retreat, what we do with the children. And Manisha so beautifully said, we serve. We will run a normal good school from there. So this is a glimpse of a school happening. It's a fireside chat. This is being done all to excite Ajay sir, and maybe he boards the next train or the flight. There's Jolly Grant Airport nearby and comes and visits us at the retreat. So thank you all. Thank you all for this quick preview of what's happening in our world. Any questions, we'll be happy to answer. Ajay sir, anything you want to share? We are so happy to have you. I can't tell you, sir.
It is amazing, and I've always, when I miss it, I always feel that I've missed something, because you get to learn so many things when we attend such sessions. And obviously, the thing which I'm also working on right now is, as I discussed with you last time when we met, the reading habits of even teachers.
Yes, sir.
That adds on to the thing which we can give to the students, which sadly has come down. And I want to really, so now we have started a reading club with 4 members at least to begin with. We want to expand that on the same notion.
Yeah, I'm glad this template is visible to you.
And we are keeping that Good Schools Alliance and one topic behind when we do that. I'll share that picture with you.
No, thank you so much. Sir, in fact, the 4 teachers you mentioned, I'd be happy to do a separate offline chat with them or online chat, whichever way you want it.
Well,
yeah, you can put it down in your notebook. We can have a conversation with our experience of having physically worked in schools and setting up learning communities. So I'm not saying learning center, I've used the word learning community now. And what we have been able to successfully do here, which even the World Bank has gone on to say that it's one of the 10 global innovations for India, if it can be scaled up. Having the community to build learning communities. Now, when it says community, it means teachers, children, parents, family. And that's why we said, okay, now that we are online, let's do it on Sunday. So earlier on, when we used to visit sites, it used to be on Saturdays. So we used to have learning forward Saturdays in schools. And 3 schools which I was visiting every month, on those Saturdays were bagless days. So those schools would have me there, and we would do a little bit of service, little bit of skill, and a little bit of study. And all this service, skill, study had an element of reading in it. So even the service program, we would read about maybe farming, or maybe we would read about the project we were doing. Similarly, in skills, we would read about music notes, we would read about appreciation of music and do the music session. And similarly, if you were playing cricket, we would write and read a story of a sports person. So we would always bring the book to the field and the field to the book. So that's how the whole learning programs were designed. But of course, now as we stand in the Learning Forward Foundation, which came up in 2020, decided that let's support schools than just try and do this every time ourselves. So in that spirit, we are more than happy to have schools join us. And that's how Thursday is hosted by Brinda of Gyanshri. Friday we host here. Then Saturday is the master class, which is open to the entire LinkedIn community of professional readers. And Sunday is open to everyone. Anyone can come, family, friends. You can bring your dogs along, cats along. I have a dog here. Let me see if the guy wants to come on the screen. Otherwise, yeah, that's my dog. So this dog comes along every Sunday and listens. The most wise guy around here. His name is Batum, Batum, Batum. And there is a story about Batum, which I wrote some time back, and I will share it one of these days. Why the dog's name is Batum, Batum. So that's our stories make us, Ajay sir, and we are so happy here. Before we go into the last 2-3 minutes, we have guests. So I'd like every guest to take a minute and please help us, guide us, catch us, twist our ears, tell us what we have done wrong. Over to you, Chetan, to start with.
No, this is my first introduction to the Sunday school. In fact, Umesh and I, we used to have a at 11 o'clock every Sunday. So we would read. We would pick up a book and read. So we were reading the Panchatantras. you know, and then no, actually not the Panchatantra, but the uh, Hitopadeshas. Yeah, the Hitopadesh.
Hitopadesh.
Yeah, that,
Read the Panchatantra, Jugjeev sir has been reading.
yeah. So we were reading that, and then I got this message. So I said, in any case, we are two people. So why don't we see what the world is doing? And in any case, Good Schools Alliance is a partner, and they're doing some wonderful work. So let's see. Maybe we can be there and learn from them, and maybe somewhere meet like-minded people and contribute in whichever way possible.
Thank
In
you,
any case,
Chetan.
I enjoyed both the stories. The the
Bookstore and the animals.
bookstore and the inner life of animals.
Yeah.
I also liked the chapter on altruism, but I have a different perspective. I think with this distinction of selfishness and unselfishness comes from a false identity, uh, which in our tradition, and my tradition is the Advaiti tradition. The it the so and one of the teachers of the Advaiti tradition is Ramana Maharishi. He was asked about this question: how should we deal with others? And he responded with this: there are no others. So that's the essence of where the Indian tradition is comes from, and that's where this Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam comes from. It says, this there's this line, shloka, which says, I am Nij, that this is mine, that is others, that is not mine. This is thinking of a small ego. But people who are big, actually, they are fundamentally being selfish. Why? Because they don't think of themselves as only this small self. They think of this entire world as their own family. So I have a view that when you're not married, yourself is only this, defined by this body. Then you get married, then yourself is defined by the couple. Then you have a family, then you have children, then yourself is defined by you, the wife, and the child, and the children that you have. And then as you evolve, then you find that you are not limited by just your family. It can then become the community, and then the community can expand to become the country. The country can expand then to become the entire world. The greatest people in the world, whether it is who we admire, whether it was the Buddha or Jesus, etc., they never discriminated. They never thought of themselves as small or tiny, or defined themselves as little, but as everything, that we are a part of the whole. So I found the altruism thing, and especially the fact that even bats are altruistic, you know I found that very, very interesting. So thank you very much, for sharing that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the words. And the good thing is that every session, like since last October, we started this practice. We videograph every one of these sessions. And why we had to do that? Some of the schools, we were never for video. We were never for camera. But one particular group of schools, Sunbeam has 7 schools. And what they do is that if they can't make it because of their boarding houses activities in the morning, they say, we don't want to lose. We want a session recording, and then they replay it in the evening at their end on a Sunday when they have time. So that's why we started building the My Good School channel, and that's how we have now started even the weekly. Because what people said, that if you can put everything together in one post and send us, it becomes easier for us. We don't have to go hunting to see what is where. So with that spirit, only 5 weeks back, we started the Good Schools of India weekly, and 600 subscribers with 700 opening it every week. I think it's a good readership from a cross section of people. Thank you so much, Umesh ji. You want to add something, Umesh Vyas?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, so let me switch my video on.
It doesn't matter. We like the party you're in your picture.
Yeah, so no, I think I enjoyed the session thoroughly, very useful. Would love to attend it later. Thank you very much. I thought I'd use this occasion to share a short story I have on one of my favorite bookshops, which I believe I don't have data on it, but might be the largest bookshop in the world. It's Foyles in London. And I remember my first visit there because I was working in London at that time, and people in my office told me that if you love books and you want to buy books, go to very visible. So one fine Saturday, I ended up there, went to Foyles, and the bookshop seemed like an average bookshop, normal, average size. So I walked in, and at the counter, I was looking for a book that time. I still remember it was a book. So I asked this guy if he has breakers, and he said, "Can you share what subject it might be?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Can I call it military history?" I said, "Yeah, you can call it military history." Okay, he said, "Go to the fourth floor wing." And that's when I took the elevator, and I realized that this bookstore is over 4 or 5 floors. Each floor has like 4 wings. It was a massive experience where one could spend weekends. So I just thought,
Yeah, no, beautiful, sir. We have some audio weakness at what's coming in. The inward audio is a little poor. Thank you. But we experience these stories every day here. Our bookstore is over 100 years old. We're in Dehradun. I have a mother who's here for the last 51 years in the bookstore. So her life is half of the history of the bookstore. She at 85 comes every morning all ready. She will celebrate her 86th birthday this year. She gets up and comes at 11 a.m. and is here till almost 6:37 every day. Every visitor talks to her, and sitting on her desk, she can tell you, go to this shelf and see there you will find the book you're looking for. There's no computer there for that. Yes, she uses the computer, but she can physically tell you where every book is in the bookstore. So thank you, added to that story. Over to you, Jugjeev sir. Ajay sir, you want to add something?
That's in fact lovely, because what we are doing right now in terms of storytelling is we are using the fort. So 2 booklets we have come out with, short booklets. And the first booklet was on the birds on the fort. So we wanted our children to actually become educated. And the second is the medicinal trees on the fort. So these 2 booklets is what we have now made as a small booklet, so that every child can carry it. And now when they can talk to people coming on the fort, they are well versed as to what is the beauty of the tree which I was passing by every day and I didn't recognize it. So much to do, so much to do.
Thank you, sir. So we have beautiful books on the trees of Chandbagh and the birds of Chandbagh. I don't know if you got these books. So this is a book on the birds of Chandbagh. There's also one on trees of Chandbagh. And Dune School always has this culture of producing books. And if you look back historically, we published over 100 books, and that's itself is a lot of reading. So this bird book is very nice, and why I like this bird book is he's actually gone and explained. I don't know if you see it or not. The illustration, how the birds grow up, which country you find them in, and then there's a QR code, so you can scan and find out more about the bird with pictures and videos. So this is very interesting. And by the way, this was done by a boy in school.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I wanted to mention. So, like Rishona is doing at my good school, she's been writing the Joy of Learning diaries. And I was mentioning today that her diaries, as she leaves school or she passes out of school, as they say, which I don't think we ever do. No one passes out of school. We are still in school. So Rishona could take a souvenir from us or from her end and say print on demand from the blogger, and she'll get a book to remember. This is my self-assessment, this is my formative assessment, and this is my joy of learning.
Wonderful.
So
Wonderful.
that's
Brilliant.
Umesh ji, thank you. Manisha ma'am, thank you for summing up everything. Yes, before we go, retreat starts 11th morning in the Rajaji Sanctuary, on the edge of it, not in the sanctuary, because you can't have a retreat inside the sanctuary. We are there 11th morning, 12th morning, 13th morning, 14th morning, and 14th afternoon we head back to wherever we are come from. 90% of our people are coming by rail. They arrive 11th morning to Dehradun. That's the road head they have taken. Yes, from there it's about 70 minutes to the camp we are staying in. We are staying in the Khan Farm, and the Arthur Food Academy is about 15 minutes walk from the Khan Farm. So that's the venue. The venue for the next retreat in November is also the same. The venue for the third retreat, which is special this year, is Varanasi. So in December we'll have our third retreat in Varanasi, which Ajay sir may be closer to
Yes,
you
I would be. Yes.
logically point of view, and Amrita Burman is hosting it. On the
Wonderful.
retreat, we have a very special guest in December, that is Shivpreet Singh. So Shivpreet Singh is a musician, composer, 18 million YouTube. You can say he does Guru Nanak's poetry. He explains it in English, sings it, and he plays it with musicians all over the world. So that's Shivpreet Singh. On Guru Nanak note, Manisha ma'am, next Sunday we have the Guru Nanak episode, or Sunday after that?
Next Sunday.
Next.
Amardeep is coming next
Next
Sunday.
Sunday, have an episode of Guru Nanak stories from thegurunanak.com. And if you ever get time, go to schooleducation.com. We have now put a little snippet on our website homepage why we use oneness as our way of building my good school. So there's a small story. And the beautiful part about my good school is there's Jugjit Singh, there's Amardeep Singh, there's Shivpreet Singh, there's Avinash Alag, then there is Noni for now Bagga. I don't know how it happened, but God bless them. And that's why we call it the learning langar. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jugjit. Over to you, Jugjit, to do the
Just one thing, if I can react. I thought one word that was used by Ajay ji was is a very it evoked something. So he said something about storytelling. And my view is that because we are all interested in education. I think one of the greatest skills. So Sandeep talks about 3 hours. But I think it might be 3 hours. That it should probably be 3 hours and one S as well. The skill of storytelling is a leadership skill. Greatest leaders in our world, have been actually the greatest of storytellers, and we teach through stories. So while we read stories here, it might be great to encourage or create a platform where participants, children, don't only read, but tell and share stories in as beautiful a way that they can.
Chetan sir, reflection is storytelling. So that's
Okay.
what reflection is. So reading, reflection, and what stories build is relationships. See, because the biggest storytellers build fantastic relationships. So when you read, you learn how to reflect. Reflection means you learn how to express yourself. And that's how our storytelling is, by podcasts, is by videos. So go to the YouTube channel. That's where all the stories are being told, not by us, but by the people who come here and reflect. So storytelling is intrinsically built as a power of expression at my good school. So I'm glad you highlighted it, and perhaps that's how we have learned and come all this way. Rishona's story, Kunal's stories here, the blogs they write, what how they express themselves. But we have to understand one thing. Not many in the younger generation would come on a video and talk, but they will write very well. They will produce great podcasts. They will even produce videos, which is their power of expression. And we fully appreciate and respect that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Which,
Thank you.
which is the YouTube channel? Again, the Good Schools.
It's just my good school. Just type my.
I'd just like to add something. It's very interesting that storytelling has come up as an Sorry.
Umesh, we can hear you.
Yeah, continue, Umesh, sir.
Yeah. So I said I'm glad storytelling came up as a topic for discussion, because in my process of discovery of what can revolutionize math education, I've discovered 4 skills which teachers can use to teach math differently. And those 4 are storytelling, visualization, play, and creating situations for investigation and discovery. So I've shortened it to VIPs.
Beautiful, sir. Thank you. Jugjit, sir, we need a
I
session for
believe that
VIPs.
may form the basis for
Yeah.
a solution.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. We'll have a session and we've run out of time. We'll badly over time. I think it was a fantastic morning. And to each one of you, I bow down for being the happy teacher. God bless you all. And thank you, Manisha, ma'am. You do so much to put us all together. Thank you for everyone who contributed patiently to this discussion. And have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
Thank
soon.
you.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Take care. Bye.